and I'll turn it over to the director and Mr. Hale.
Who will leave it with Mr. Hay.
You got the floor, Brad.
Okay, I am, let me get BOE Connect here on my other computer. So with document number 1, and Jennifer, that'll actually be the second one on the list. That'll be the agenda. And let me back out of here. I just added another document as well. It just got brought to me. And tell me when you've got that up. For some reason, I can't see what you have up.
Don't be quiet over there. We got a committee meeting going here.
Okay. For whatever reason, I'm not seeing. Do you have the agenda up, Jennifer?
Yes.
Okay. So we'll just start and go over the general fund as normal, so we can go to document number 2, the narrative. And just let me know when you have that up. Again, I can't see it.
We follow the lead.
Okay, all right, she's doing it. I'm gonna leave my hands off the mouse.
We don't have to do anything, right, Jennifer?
No.
No, Mitch.
I like this stuff, following along.
Number 2, did you say?
Yeah, it'll be the narrative, and
I don't see.
I'm going to go blind. I'm going to go blind with it here.
I don't see one that says narrative.
Okay.
For finance, is that what it is?
Okay.
Would you find it in it?
It's on down. It says 2, 3, 4, 5.
2. Gosh. Sorry. I'm new.
I thought being trained.
Yeah, I'll have to come up with a different numbering system that BOE Connects likes. So we'll do that next time. So we'll just start and go down the narrative. And hit the high points of the overall summary here of the revenue and expenses. The major one here, the first one, current property tax come in at $601,000, and that's $227,000 less than last March, but that's just due to timing. We're running good on property tax for the year overall. The next one was right on target, property tax prior year at $72,882, and the clerk and masters jumping 2 down, $20,273. That's $14,000 more than March last year, but that again is due to timing. And same with the interest and penalty on delinquent tax, we actually had $24,005, as you can see, $3,500 more than last year. And then the bottom item is sales tax. This is the first month of the year we've had less than the prior year, so it was 1.212 million, 37,000 less than March of last year. That's close, but nonetheless, so we're still running ahead on sales tax this year, which it's good that we are, not knowing what will happen with COVID, with the COVID effects on it. So going to page 2, the business tax, you can see 11,679. That was 5,100 less than the prior year. The marriage license is always real small, less than 100 there. We did have tuition, partial tuition for Boones Creek, 2,500 on pre-K. And then the community service fees, it fell this month, and that's obviously because of school closings, March 18th, so 32,350. That was almost 15,000 less than March of last year. We can see interest on earned on deposits at $18,000. This line item has been very good to us this year. We've had a significant increase. That's almost $12,000 more than last March. And so insurance recoveries next. That was something that's not normal. We had $1,286, and that was from recent damage to a fence at Daniel Boone High School. I think that was the fence right on the next side of the football field, I believe.
Hey, Brad.
Yes.
Which document are we in?
I'm glad you
One,
asked that
the
question.
narrative.
Narrative.
I thought Jennifer had it up, sorry.
Well, we're bringing it up. I think everybody's trying to get it up on their the
You need
Chromebook
help? I can help you too.
Refresh.
narrative. It's at the bottom. I see it, number 2.
Yeah, those numbers, I've got to come up with a different numbering system that BOE likes.
Oh, it's working. Well,
Are we still on page 2?
yes.
Okay.
You following?
Was it just one?
Oh, that kicked you off.
It's done that twice. Which one?
See? If you're following, you shouldn't have to click it.
Huh?
You should be pulling it up.
Which one
It's the narrative.
Just let me know whenever you all are ready, and I'll continue.
You got it, Mitch?
Yeah.
Okay, we ready now? Oh,
Yeah, just go ahead and pull up that, his overview, his, on there, go ahead.
This one? Which one?
It's, down near the bottom.
Use that button, and it'll, those buttons on the side,
See it too,
and
somewhere.
they'll make it larger.
I don't know.
I don't see it on that page.
Is there another page? No.
Oh, mine's not going, I flip back and forth too much to different things, so I can't
Oh,
follow.
there it is.
Oh, I have it.
Yeah.
Just have him click it and do it. Just click it. Just go down and click it and pull it up.
But I don't see it.
Yeah,
Oh, keep going.
That's it.
Oh, go back up.
not on there.
Isn't that not it, 10-2?
This one?
Is that not it?
I think this is back in a different meeting. I think.
Yep, that's in a different meeting.
Nothing like technology.
Yeah.
Nothing like it. Great when it works.
This meeting, correct?
That says May 7th.
Yeah. I know, but
That's
see,
smart.
that's where all this stuff is under.
Oh,
Yeah, I don't have it.
So if you click join me,
Pin
it
two.
should,
there's 2.
Where?
Pin 2, right there. Now, where you go?
Uh,
That's not it.
That's not it.
Philippe, can I sign in
Yeah.
on that and then I'll just,
Yeah.
I don't know why yours isn't pulling up. Right here.
So Brad, are you on the page 2 of the narrative? Or you?
Yes. Yeah, right, about a little over halfway down where you see interest earned on deposit.
Yep.
Okay, are we ready to continue?
Yeah, just go ahead, they're right there.
Okay. Really, the only other significant item at the bottom of the page, there's contributions and gifts. You'll see $30,255. $30,000 of that was a donation from Bright Ridge to go towards the purchase of the electric school bus. We have already received the TVA contributions, so there's a grant that we're receiving, and then there's approximately $75,000 we received last year from a total school bus that went into the fund balance, which will also be part of the purchase of that electric school bus. So all 4 of those items, once that comes to fruition. So going to page 3. Now, The BEP, about halfway down the page, is the first significant item. 3,563,000, so that's over 50% of our revenue on average. And that's 93,100 more than the prior year. And on this page, the bottom would be the next significant item, 17,967. That was 2 grants. Transition School to Work grant is one of those. And that was 14,397 of that. And then the Safe Schools grant, we had 3,570. That was reimbursed on Safe Schools. Going on to page 4, the ROTC near the top, that's pretty standard with the prior year, 7327. And now we get to the overall summary of revenue for March 2020. That was 5,692,000 and some change. And you can see that's about 95,000 less than March of last year. Mainly that's timing increases, our variances. The sales tax, of course, was 37,000 less than last March, but BEP funds were 93,100 more, and a few of the other net items you can see, property taxes were 227,000 less just due to timing compared to March of last year, and then the contributions and gifts, we had the 30,255 that we didn't have last year. But overall, out of 5.7 million, being within 95,000, virtually right on target with the prior year revenue. But any questions before we continue to expenses? I hear none, so we'll continue to expenses, and these will just be, all of these expenses, of course, will be captured on the expense report that we have, but these are the highlights for major expenses or abnormal expenses for the month of March. So the largest one here, the other contracted services, 579,000 and some change. That was University School for March, their portion of the revenue. It was larger than normal because of the property tax that came in March. And then other supplies and materials, you can see a little over 5,000. That was 270 cases of additional copier paper that was needed. And then the civics grant, expenses of 7,700, that was incurred. And you can see the Center for Civic Ed for instructional materials, and that was a grant, so we'll get that back. Going on to the next page. See some ACT materials was purchased in the first evaluation and testing category. And then the 5952, that's special ed, OT and PT, Mini Miracle for the students. And then other supplies and materials, you'll see this is the technology category, 72,250, 499. And you can see those 3 items that I have listed that's significant in that particular expense line item. I won't read those out since you've got them in front of you. Going next, 72,320, 75,64 was incurred. The key expense was 6657 for copier lease payments. And that's for printers at Asbury Family Resource Center, the David Crockett High School Graphic Arts Print Shop, Midway School, and then Central Office. So all combined there. Next, 72,410, 2540. That was with Dale All-American for the Southside Middle School football equipment reconditioning. That was finished. And then other contracts and services. Overall, in that line item, you can see 5470, and there's 3 main items listed there. For grease track, pest control, for the David Crockett High School chiller maintenance expense. And that's pretty standard each month. 72,610, 599, you can see 3,588 was incurred in March. The key expense there is Share Corporation for kitchen, drain, and sewer chemicals. And then maintenance and repair of buildings, got 15,170, and that was Ferguson Enterprises. And all we had on that is a 250-gallon water heater at Ridgeview Elementary School. I'm sure there was more to it than just a water heater, but that's what we had on our purchase order down here. And that was an emergency repair, is what I had listed. And then the last page, page 6. You see 72,620 still in the maintenance category, 48,570 total in that line item. And I won't read each one of those, but you can see the 6 or 7 items that are listed that make up most of that 48,570. Next, you have administrative equipment, 27,712. and that was Superior Alarm for 80 security cameras, 5 recorders, and that was part of the Safe Schools grant, so we will be reimbursed on all of that. And next we have transportation equipment, $32,314. That was the board-approved purchase of a van. It was a Ford Transit cargo van, brand new through the state contract, and that was through Murfreesboro, the dealership there that has a state contract this year. And it's really interesting what we're seeing on the prices we're getting new vehicles for. Our transportation supervisor, Tony Roberts, has told me that we can't buy vehicles 2 years old as cheap as we're getting them brand new through this state contract. So that state contract is a very good source to get vehicles. So overall expenses for March came in at $5,796,000 and some change. Right on target with really last year, only $50,925 different from last year, so right on target there. The main reason for a variance, if I was to pick something out, was $69,374. That was just really teacher salary expense, and that's really due to an increase in teaching positions that were needed this year, the beginning of the school year due to enrollment. And then part of that could have been a pay increase from last year, but everything else very close to being right on target. So that concludes the narrative. Is there any questions on anything?
I have a question about the ACT. Do we have any students that want to take it that didn't get a chance to?
If that's so, it would have been very minor. We
Okay.
kind of fudged a little bit on school closure. We left schools open a day longer so that we could take advantage of that March 19th,
Right.
18th, that day in March. We got that in, and I can tell you also that there's going to be another date in September where kids get it free. So we're pretty well up to speed on
Well,
ACT.
good. Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions on this one? Hearing none, we will continue. Document number starts with number 3, Jennifer, and where these are all jumbled up, it'll be right below where you found the narrative. It'll be sales tax analysis. It'll just say 3 sales tax analysis, FY20.
Will mine follow on that?
Yes. Yeah.
I keep reading.
I'm gonna make it bigger up here.
Just make it bigger. Hit that button. See
Which?
the,
X.
see the X button in the right-hand corner there?
Right
Hit
there?
that, yeah.
Okay. Bill, what day did we close schools?
March 8th.
March 18th. I hate to think what the next 2 months will look like on sales tax.
Well, keep in mind that the number you see there in March is actually for sales made in January,
It's 2 months behind.
2 months behind.
Of course, that's not too bad after the increase we had the previous month.
And Brad, I think I don't know if you remembered from the budget committee meeting this morning, but sales for April, I believe that if I remember right, well, maybe we didn't have that in there. I guess it was just through March. Never mind. May and June will be the months that May will be, because our March sales, which we were in full shutdown, will be reflected in April, in the May numbers.
Right, and with March, things didn't slow down until about middle of March, so I'm interested to see how May's numbers compare with last May's numbers when we get them. June, of course, is going to be the whole month of April, so that'll be the full hit. Definitely in June with whatever it's going to do, whether it's 100,000 hit or 500,000 hit. We just don't know what that'll be, but this, sheet, if you've got the sales tax sheet up, it'll show you the month of March. That's the first month we've been behind compared to the prior year for a monthly basis. It was still close, 37,000 behind, but you can see for the year, if you look at July through March last year compared to July through March this year, we're $515,000 ahead of where we were last year. So we've certainly got some padding there. So if June ends up being a 20% hit or a 30% hit, that'll be much easier to handle. We'll just have to see where that comes in. So, but you can see, like June, for example, it's 1,157,000 last year, so a 20% hit will be roughly $220,000. And I'm just throwing that number out there because we don't know exactly where it'll be. It's a 30% hit. It'll be around compared to last June, but we are $500,000 ahead right now compared to the prior year. So again, we'll be able to absorb some. The bottom of the page, you'll note that bottom left-hand corner, we're at 78.705% of collections through 9 months. So all things being equal, which they're not, but if they were, 75% would have been our target right now, being 9 out of 12 months completed. So overall, right now, setting good on sales tax, have some cushion there. We'll just see how May and June's numbers come in. If May comes in with a big hit, then we better get ready for June. But if May's not bad, then, maybe June won't be as bad either. We'll see. All right, any questions on sales tax? Okay. Next will be just if there's any questions, item number 4 below the sales tax, where that one was, says 4-GF payables report. If there are any questions, that payables report has been out there. So, so if there is any questions, I'll be glad to try to address those. Every item we just went over on the narrative will, of course, be embedded in this report. But if you do have a question, just let me know what page number you're on and what the dollar amount is, and I'll go right there.
Where'd it go?
Where'd it go? There it comes.
Oh, sorry.
It's just part of it.
Bottom page, what page you wanna go to?
1?
We're on 15.
Just all of a sudden jumped. Right.
And just like last month, I started including the liability accounts on here. So when you see your First Horizon Bank, we talked about that last month, that's going to be federal taxes, FICA, Social Security and Med-D contributions. All of a setting, those didn't show up on the previous report, so I thought it'd be good to have those showing up now because that's what auditors look at as well, any checks that we write out. And when you see Horace Mann, that's just voluntary retirement accounts. The Omni Group, 403B, voluntary retirement plans some employees take. When you see PayFlex, that's health savings accounts that some employees voluntarily take. When you see Washington CO General, that's typically a court-ordered garnishment that will come out of account 21360. That's a liability account. But give everyone another minute just to make sure no one has any questions on any specific items. So just not hearing anything, Mr. McLean, will be up to you if anyone has any questions on this, the expense report, balance sheet. Otherwise, that'll conclude the general fund financial report.
On page 5, what is Great West?
Great West is the Empower retirement, the 401k, basically, that is optional for classified employees, but new hybrid teachers, it's part of their TCS plan.
So it's the new program.
Yes, whenever they went to the hybrid retirement plan,
Okay.
all teachers will, a portion of that TCRS retirement is part of the 401k bucket. Now, for employees like myself that are not teachers, we can voluntarily contribute to that.
But you're still part of TCRS also?
Yeah, it's basically it's a non-teacher retirement plan for folks like myself, but for the teachers, that's part of their TCRS retirement plan. There's part of it that's a traditional retirement, then part of their contributions goes into a 401k component, but it's still all TCRS. Sometimes you'll hear Great Waste referred to as Empower Retirement, which again is part of TCRS. And that 45,000 that you see is pretty consistent each month with about what the contributions are.
What is Truck Pro? I don't remember seeing that on there in previous months.
Yeah, I believe that's going by, that's the new name, and it's where they're,
On Kingsport.
yeah, but what page?
I'm on 9, 8, and 9.
I bought parts of our before.
How much was it? I don't know, there was a bunch of different ones.
Yeah, that's where they're getting supplies, and that's the new name, and I forget what the previous name was, but an example is the 1200.
1400, 1700.
Yeah, the 1233 and the 1446 were new turbocharges. Turbocharges. The 1233 was bus 28. The 1446 charge was a turbocharger for bus 47.
Okay.
And the 1736 was a fuel pump for bus 10.
I just didn't remember seeing Truck Pro before, is the reason I asked.
You're correct, and tomorrow I'll have that, but
That's okay.
they just went Truck Pro. I forget the previous name of that company. It's the same company we've been getting it from.
That's all right, I just wanted to know who it was.
Yeah.
I'm informed. You don't need to do anything further on my part. I'm almost there, so bear with me.
Okay.
When I enlarge it, then I can't scroll. Does that make sense? When I enlarge it, I have trouble trying to scroll down. Does that make, I don't know. You don't need to help me right now. I got it.
Brad, is that it on the general
Just
fund?
experimenting, just.
It is, if there's no other questions on this or any of the other documents, that'll be it.
Does anybody have a question concerning the general fund financial statement?
All right, Mr. Chairman, I move for approval of the general fund statements of the month of March 2020.
Have a motion for approval, do I hear a second?
I second.
Have a second? Any other question or comment? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Moving right along.
Okay, we will move to item number 7, that's marked 7-FF for federal fund. Payables report for March. And since we started including those liability accounts, you'll notice the federal fund payables report has got larger. But that's just the same thing where we're showing the property taxes and the voluntary insurance and retirement deductions. Everything you see there at First Horizon Bank is taxes, federal taxes, FICA or Med D. But the reason you see so many is the federal projects are made up of different grants. So each grant has its own expense line item for federal tax, for FICA and Med D. So and just off the top of my head, there may be a dozen different grants that make up the whole federal project's expense report. So that's why you see so many different ones out there, just different grant numbers. So really other than the payroll deductions, payroll taxes, Med D withholdings, page 1, you'll see an expense for school specialty, $4,023. That was special ed material. And which of course this is all federal, so it's reimbursed. The next page, it is most all of that coming out of each liability account there in relation to the grants. You'll see several of those. And health insurance, the Washington County IN stands for Washington County Insurance, so that's your state insurance, health insurance deduction. And that's mainly it. The rest of it is really, when you see CHLIC, that's Cigna Dental and Vision. American United Life, of course, some of that's voluntary, some of it's the standard life insurance. But that's really the summary of what this is. It's mostly your payroll taxes and voluntary deductions, other than some small reimbursements.
What is CHLIC?
Yeah, that's Cigna. That's CHLIC, Cigna Health,
Oh.
and but that is for your vision and your dental insurance that are voluntary, the employees take.
And what are we paying to First Horizon Bank? Is it a credit card?
That is so that is your federal taxes for payroll,
Oh, okay.
and then payroll FICA for Social Security, and then Med D contribution.
Okay.
You have so many different ones because there's so many grants that are up in federal projects. So an you'll have an employee in one grant, an employee in another grant, and there'll be different expense line items for them. So that's why you see so many of them.
Okay? Any other questions? Are you ready?
Yeah, so if there's that's the summary of the payables report. All this would be embedded in the federal fund expense report and balance sheets that are also on the BOE Connect. So any questions, I'll be glad to try to answer those, as well as I'm sure Mr. Whitaker or Dr. Myers that are on here.
Do I hear a motion for the federal fund financial statement?
So moved.
Have a motion for approval. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Have a second. Any other question or comment? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. Motion carries. Next.
So next we'll go to the federal projects, FY21 budget as it stands right now. And the reason I say as of right now is these grants do change and become available at different times. So, but the item number 10-1, it says federal allocations. That would be the one, Jennifer, to go to and access that one for the group. And this is a summary of all of the grants as of right now. There'll be new allocations coming. We'll talk about bringing this to Finance Committee. I assume this will go to full board tomorrow night, unless you decide to take this up with our next budget meeting. But this is what we have as of right now, and the numbers for the grants of what the allocations are for FY21.
Is there, Jerry, is there anything that's changing from year to year of any significance?
You're muted, Jerry.
What was the question, Mitch?
I said, is there anything, there's a lot of numbers on here, but is there anything on here that's changing significantly from where we are in the current year?
We're pretty close to level funding. I think, the biggest increase was in Title I is around $33,000. So, Title II, we went up about 19,000. What this is the consolidated federal application, and it consists of 5 titles: Title I, Title ID, Title IIA, Title III, and Title IV. And it also has the 2 IDA parts in the consolidated federal, which is IDA Part B and IDA Pre-K, which is Dr. Myers. So with the title programs, the ones that I'm familiar with, roughly about $2 million you see here. So right around 57,000 more than last year with preliminary allocation. I think Dr. Myers is like somewhere around 1.9 million for hers. We probably about 115,000 more total with all of these programs from last year to this year. So hopefully that answers your question with that.
Okay, thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions?
What we would have approved here in the past is you would approve the federal FY21 federal budget and all subsequent amendments. The county actually has language when it goes to the county that they recognize the federal projects budget as the Tennessee Department of Education says it is. And Mitch, I might have messed the verbiage up for the county there, but that's what I remember the county using, and that allows us, as the allocations change, as they commonly do from month to month on some of these grants, we're able to update that accordingly to match the TDE, the Tennessee Department of Education.
Yeah, the comptroller's okay with, if the Department of Education approves it, the comptroller's okay with it, and so you don't need your local legislative body to approve it. So that's how we kind of.
You just have to approve it this one time at the beginning of the year, at least the county commission does, and then with that language, we don't have to take it back to the commission every time we have a change in allocation.
That is correct. So, Mr. Committee Chairman, I'd make a motion that we recommend this budget, if it's not out of order, that we recommend this budget to the full board for approval at our next meeting.
Have a motion, do I hear a second?
Second.
Have 2 seconds. Any other question or comment? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Next.
Okay, next, we'll just do just a quick overview of the dietary fund. It'll be item 11, let's say 11-dietary trends. And this was just where I was asked several months back to just bring an update on where dietary is standing. Now, we will start to see some differences coming in next month with the funding, with COVID, and of course the board took action for the general fund to reimburse dietary for the standard payroll from March 18th through the end of the school year, so that will be taking effect as well. And but this is up through March before everything really got, because this would have been really data that was collected. Well, March could have started being hitting a little, but this is where we stand through March on the financials. You can see the first one is a revenue comparison. You do see on page 1 under the March column, the revenue did drop by about 72,000 from the prior March. And of course, a big part of that's going to be where school closed on March 18th. And then on their expenses, when you go to page 2, you can see the expenses did not drop from last March. You know, they're at 275, so what you have is the revenue drop, but the expenses didn't yet. And then on page 3, there's where their fund balance is. So the fund balance is still holding okay in March at $945,000, which compared to the prior year is still a significant increase. Now, when you get to April, you're going to see that fund balance start to drop. However, we haven't reimbursed the dietary's payroll yet, which we're getting ready to do that tomorrow out of the general fund. So the number that's sitting in front of me right now is about almost 177,000 that will be reimbursing dietary, and that's for payroll that's happened since March 18th up through the payroll that's taking effect tomorrow. So we estimated when we originally factored this in as it'd probably be close to $270,000 that the general fund will be reimbursing the dietary fund for standard payroll, and that's unbudgeted dollars, at least in the original budget. So that, of course, will play a part into our, that'll lower the fund balance at the end of this year, since that revenue, since those expenses are being covered by the general fund. But starting next month, the numbers I saw is their fund balance, I want to say, has fallen from 945 down to like 770. But again, part of the reason is some of the reimbursement from general fund that just hasn't happened yet. That's happening this week.
Brad, have y'all looked at April, May, and June? Because I would guess that there's, other than any federal reimbursement, there'd be very little revenue coming into the school.
Yeah, the revenue for April on the report that I have fell drastically. In fact, let me see if I can pull that up real quick, Mitch. And of course, some of that will be offset by the general fund if we're talking about just the dietary, but again, it's still expense that we're having to incur.
But as a school system as a whole, what we're doing is essentially just moving our fund balance to dietaries. That's
exactly right. Yeah, that's exactly right. So yeah, the revenue for April fell to just under $43,000. And the expenses for April, $265,000. So you can see the gap starting to happen. Now I'm getting ready to again issue a check called board approved for $176,000 to dietary. So a big part of that deficit will be covered, but nonetheless, the effects you'll start to see those effects in April quite a bit. So how much it'll affect the dietary fund balance by June 30th, we'll have to wait and see how much it affects it. That's kind of where we stand right now with dietary.
Okay, but you don't need any action on this, right?
No, this was just for knowledge.
Okay.
So no other questions. There was one other item that I was asked to add just right before the meeting. I did get a text that Crystal Fink was not invited to the meeting, Dr. Flannery, so she's not on here.
I didn't know that.
She just texted me just a little while ago.
I think I can represent her interest in this matter if you want to go ahead and segue.
Okay. So, Jennifer, the very first document that's on this list, there'll be a parentheses, it'll say 2020-05-06. And this is a document that talks about a lease. It's the big copier lease in the David Crockett High School print shop. That lease still has a year, but evidently the RICO sales rep approached Jennifer and the one that runs, or Crystal and the one that runs the print shop. Looking at locking in an additional lease on an upgraded printer. And so I'll kind of be quiet and let Dr. Flannery chime in there.
This is our big high-speed, high-volume printer. It is the anchor of that program. It's not a school copier. It's much bigger than that. It's a commercial machine. They have offered a deal by which we can get a better machine at a lesser price. And Brad, I believe they're offering a 5-year contract.
The document that I have in front of me is the only thing that I've been sent, that's been sent to me. It does say a 60-month contract at $21.50 a month.
Yeah.
Um,
And
I don't-
there'll still be a click charge on it, but that's not a problem. But Crystal came and talked to me today. There's not really a downside to it. And we get a better machine for less money.
How much are we paying now?
Oh, we'll save about $120 or $30 a month.
I would ask, you know, anytime I have a lease come across my desk, you know, I'd like to know what the implicit interest rate is in it. Because if you could purchase versus leasing it and they're dinging you for 12 or 18%, then, you know, maybe you need to be purchasing it outright,
Yeah.
But the thing about the lease, they come back and take it back, and it's wore out.
Well, it's all
We
built
ain't got
into
nothing.
the residual value of the equipment, and it calculates out what the implicit interest rate would be, so.
I can tell you, when we went through this now about 3 years ago, we looked at both sides, and the lease contract was the far better option for us.
It was about $70,000, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah, I mean,
When we bought it, we
Yeah,
was
it's-
looking to
it's,
buy it,
uh,
it was 70,000, I
$70,000 or
think.
$80,000, and we just didn't have the money, and the lease was just a far more attractive option for us at that time.
Well, my question would be, if you lease or you buy, does either one of them change the service that you get from the sales folks?
I don't know that. I know with the lease, it was automatic, you pick up the phone and they're there.
Yeah.
If you own it, you probably have to buy a contract.
Brad, this is a 5-year lease?
So that's probably part of that lease amount.
Yeah, that's correct, Mitch. On the top of page 2, I got this about 30 minutes before the meeting, so,
Well,
but at the top of page 2, it says 60-month lease at $2,150, 12 cents per month.
which is a
For
hundred,
click rate too, so there's a volume charge on there as well.
which is $150,000.
I think it's about 129 if you, not counting any volume charge, let's see, 2150
Times 60.
60, $129,000, not counting the volume charge.
I mean, I'd like to know what the interest rate is on it.
We can do the math.
Well, they can provide that to you, because they can tell you what the residual value is.
Could we have that for tomorrow night?
I can try to get Crystal to do it. I know it sounds expensive, board members, but this thing saves us a fortune over having to get a commercial print shop to do our work.
Well, I wanted
No,
to
I
ask,
don't
are they
think
still,
debating that.
are they still working now, going into that? or
All
not?
of the products that are going out to our children that don't have home internet access, that's all coming out.
I
of
was
Crockett.
wondering if they were the ones.
He's
okay.
working at least 3 days a week, maybe 5. Seems
Okay.
like he's in here every day picking up stuff to go down there and reproduce.
Right. So it's
we-
ongoing all the time.
He's on payroll, man.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean,
If it weren't for this, he'd be down there with kids. Yeah, what thing?
Okay, good.
Regular teacher. The thing is, we can't let him have any help. We can't let kids.
Brad, how quick do we need to act on this?
Where?
You've still got a year's lease on the printer that's there now. I have not had any communication with the sales rep. Crystal Fink had told me that they were just running a promotion on this. She says it's about $170 a month in savings if you consider the volume that they're using compared to what the charge will be.
Well, if you would, try
But
to
I don't have any other information.
answer Mitch's question, and we'll vote on it tomorrow night.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, and if you could factor in, the click cost differential,
Well, maybe
if the per copy cost is different than what our current per copy cost is, and what that would do
Yeah.
over a 60-month term.
Yeah, we'll have to pull our current contract and do a comparison, because I don't have the comparison at this time.
Right.
Okay?
Next.
Next.
Oh, Crystal, she wanted this number.
That's the last item I had, unless Dr. Flannery has anything else.
That was a very comprehensive report, Mr. Ray. Thank you.
So, Dr. Flannery, you don't have anything?
Not tonight.
Does any other committee member have anything? Hearing none, if there is no objection, I will declare this committee meeting closed.
Thank you.
Good night.